Sinking of Japan. Sinking of Japan, Raiben Chenmei, Nihon Chinbotsu, lit. Japan Sinks is a 2006 tokusatsu film directed by Shinji Higuchi. It is an adaptation of the novel Japan Sinks and a remake of its earlier film adaptation Tidal Wave, both released in the year 1973. It stars Tsuyoshi Kusanagi, Kou Shibasaki, Etsushi Toyokawa, and Daichi. The film was released on July 15, 2006. The film is also known under the title Doomsday, Sinking of Japan. It was parodied in Nihon Igai Zenbu Chinbotsu World Sinks Except Japan. Synopsis. Submersible pilot Toshio Onodera wakes up pinned inside his car in Numazu after an earthquake wreaks havoc in the city and nearby Saruga Bay. As an aftershock triggers an explosion, a rescue helicopter led by Ryoko Abe saves him and a young girl named Misaki. In Tokyo, geologists and volcanologists around the world become concerned about Japan. One predicts that the archipelagic nation will sink within 40 years. Japanese geoscientist Yusuke Tadakoro doubts the prediction and analyzes rocks in Kyushu, Hokkaido, and Mangae of the Cook Islands, where he hypothesizes that the rock came from the ancient continent of Japan after it split from Pangaea thousands of years ago. Tadakoro realizes Japan will sink in 338.54 days, which is less than a year instead of the original 40-year estimate. Tadakoro reports his theory to the cabinet, recommending immediate action, but none of the ministers are convinced. He is ejected from the chamber, but not before he angrily explains to everyone how Japan will sink, with the destruction of the Fossa Magna and the eruption of Mount Fuji as the climax. The next day, Prime Minister Yamamoto goes to China to try to make arrangements for an impending resettlement of Japanese refugees and appoints a close colleague, Sayori Takamori, as disaster management minister. Tadakoro's predictions come to light. In Hokkaido, the Daisatsuzen volcanic group bursts along with Mount Aso. The eruption destroys Yamamoto's plane while Kumamoto City residents flee in terror as the city is destroyed from lava bombs and pyroclastic flows. Takamori panics when she finds out about the prime minister's death. Volcanic eruptions, earthquakes, and tsunamis rock Japan, starting from southwest to northeast, affecting a large-scale evacuation now underway. As the economy collapses, the government declares a state of emergency, but acting Prime Minister Kyosuke Nozaki announces that the nation will take 5 years to sink. Because of Nozaki's indifference to the situation, Takamori runs to Tadakoro's laboratory, where he proposes using experimental N2 explosives drilled into the crust to separate the land from the megalith pulling it down. The minister, who is actually Tadakoro's ex-wife, calls for help from drillships around the world. Meanwhile, Hakodate City has been destroyed by a huge tsunami, causing the inhabitants to flee in terror as the tsunami destroys the Goryakaku and many other buildings and structures. Misaki Ryoko's family and the rest of Tokyo's population are evacuated. Onodera confesses his true feelings for Ryoko and wants her to go to England with him. An aftershock finally destroys the Kinki region, and many Tokyo evacuees are killed by a massive landslide, with people falling into the valley below as Misaki is rescued by Ryoko's family, and they witness a crowded bridge collapse. The next day, Tokyo is destroyed by a large earthquake, which triggered a tsunami which destroyed the special wards of Shibuya, Minato, and Chiyoda. The earthquake which struck Tokyo has also struck a sunken Osaka, Nagano engulfed by massive lava flows, Nagoya destroyed by another earthquake, and Sendai inundated by a series of tsunamis. Yuki Tatsuya, Onodera's fellow submersible pilot, dies in an attempt to activate the warheads from a central module. Onodera takes his place using an old submersible brought out of museum storage and spends a night with Ryoko before the operation. Although he locates the detonation module, a sudden landslide damages his submersible to the point that it is running on emergency power. Onodera uses all the remaining power to move into position and install the detonator. Mount Fuji's initiation to eruption is being witnessed by volcanologists. Onodera succeeds in his task and calmly awaits his death. The warheads explode, creating a chain of explosions along the seafloor, effectively fracturing the tectonic plates and saving Japan. The success of the mission reaches Takamori aboard the amphibious carrier Shimokita, which has been converted as the Japanese government's temporary headquarters. Although she recommends that Nizaki address the refugees, her colleagues want her to do it instead, given her leadership during the crisis. She announces that people can finally return and holds a moment of silence in honor of Tatsuya and Onodera's sacrifice. In Fukushima Prefecture, Toshio's mother, who wanted to remain at her house until the end, is overjoyed when she sees birds return, a sign of his success. Ryoko rescues her family as they look towards a bright sunrise before the credits start rolling, showing a drastically altered Japan. Cast: Tsuyoshi Kusanagi, Toshio Onodera, a submersible pilot working for Tadakoro; Kou Shibasaki, Ryoko Abe, a member of the Tokyo Hyper Rescue Team; Etsushi, Toyokawa, Yusuke Tadakoro, geologists, Mao Daichi, Sayori Takamori, Science and Disaster Management Minister, 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 Mitsuhiro Oikawa, Yuki Tatsuya, submersible pilot; Mayuko Fukuda, Misaki Kuraki, young child found in Numazu; Jun Kunimura, acting Prime Minister Kyosuke Nizaki; Koji Ishizaka, Prime Minister Yamamoto; Eiko Nagayama, Toshio Onodera's mother; Tetsuro Tamba, who played Prime Minister Yamamoto in the 1973 movie, made a cameo appearance as Ryoko's grandfather. It would be his final film role before dying on September 24, 2006. Gundam creator Yoshiyuki Tamino appeared as one of the refugees boarding a transport plane and as a Buddhist monk in Kyoto praying over a shipment of national treasures being sent abroad. Comparison with Tidal Wave. The 2006 film ends with Japan being saved after a series of non-nuclear ultra-high explosive detonations breaks its tectonic plates from dragging the entire country down. The original 1973 movie's ending is more similar to the book. Japan does sink in the end and Mount Fuji violently erupts. In the original movie, Ryoko Abe is a single woman in search of a husband. The 2006 film recasts the character as a member of Tokyo's Hyper Rescue Squad. Both versions of Ryoko Abe survive by the end of the film, with the 2006 Ryoko being able to save her family, while the 1973 version successfully escapes Japan and is last seen aboard a refugee train passing through an unknown snow-capped country. Abe's fate in the book is left unknown after Mount Fuji destructively erupts near her as she calls Toshio and asks him to meet in Geneva. In the original 1973 film, Toshio Onodera makes it out and is last seen riding a refugee train passing through a desert. Onodera dies in the 2006 film. In the original 1973 film, Dr. Tadakoro stays behind in Japan to witness the end while the 2006 version of him successfully oversees the drilling operation. In the original 1973 film, Prime Minister Yamamoto is one of the last evacuees from Japan while the 2006 version of the premiere dies while flying to China to arrange aid for refugees. The 2006 version of the film does not include Mr. Wetari, a wise old man giving counsel to Tadakoro in the 1973 film. The 1973 version of Dr. Tadakoro leads a government disaster response group called DUN, which accurately predicts the breakup of Japan. The 2006 version of the scientist is first discredited by the government despite presenting his research before the Prime Minister accepts the situation and establishes done with Tadakoro temporarily out of the pay. 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 The Dun team is based aboard a ship. The 1973 Tadakoro is apparently single, while the 2006 Tadakoro has been divorced for 20 years. The opening credits of the original 1973 film depict scenes of an overcrowded Japan, while the introduction of the 2006 film features various scenes of everyday Japanese life as well as wide shots of lives. The Watatsumi 6500 in the 2006 film is based on the real-life Shinkai 6500 submersible. The remake pays homage to the 1973 film through the appearance of its older brother, the Watatsumi 1, now called the Watatsumi 2000. Releases. Home media. Prior to the release of the film, TBS released the Encyclopedia of Sinking of Japan, a special one-hour DVD featuring interviews with the cast and crew. A standard version was released on January 19, 2007. Scale models. Takara Tomy released 2 batches of Gashapon miniatures depicting various vehicles from the film in August 2006. The company followed it up in January 2007 with a 1/700 pre-assembled model of the Shumikita, which was released under its Microworld DX line. Critical reception. The film garnered mixed reviews. Garrick Ellie of Variety lauded the visual effects, but regarded the drama elements as thin. Nix of Beyond Hollywood.com noted the ending as akin to Bruce Willis's character's sacrifice in Armageddon, and the lines of some characters are practically the same as in Western disaster movies. Mark Schilling, a film reviewer for the Japan Times, stated the movie was all business in terms of the Hollywood-style effects graphically showing the devastation. He also took notice of Shibasaki's casting as Ryoko Abe and the short conversation scenes as different from the 1973 movie, plus the soft nationalism of some characters opting to die in the chaos rather than leave the country.